Maya Chen had learned to make herself small. It was a survival skill she'd perfected over 28 years of being the wrong kind of daughter in a family that measured worth in metrics and influence scores. She stood alone in the modest community chapel, the late afternoon sun filtering through plain glass windows onto rows of farmer-rough hands and weathered faces. Her grandparents' caskets, simple pine, per their wishes, rested at the altar, crowned with bundles of herbs from their garden and wildflowers Maya had picked that morning. Her phone vibrated against her hip. Again. She'd silenced it after the first dozen messages, but the persistent buzzing continued like an insect she couldn't swat away. Through the translucent screen embedded in her palm, standard tech for anyone above poverty line, she could see the family chat lighting up with photos. Victoria in champagne silk on a yacht deck. Their parents beaming beside investment bankers. Branded gift bags with holographic logos shifting in the golden hour light. Mom says the coverage is trending in 3 markets. Victoria's message flashed across Maya's vision before she blinked it away. Maya stepped to the pulpit, her simple black dress feeling suddenly conspicuous in its plainness. No smart fabric, no embedded LEDs tracking her vitals for her wellness profile, no designer label broadcasting her taste level to anyone with scanning software. Just cotton. Just cloth. My grandmother taught me that the best things grow slowly, she began, her voice catching on the words. In the back row, she noticed him, a man in an expensive suit that probably cost more than her truck, dark hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running. He slipped into the pew quietly, and something about the careful way he moved made her pause. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second before she looked away, focusing on the speech she'd written on actual paper. The funeral director had looked at her like she was performing historical reenactment when she'd handed him the printed eulogy. She talked about her grandfather's hands in soil, about the patient work of nurturing living things. About how her grandmother had shown her that true wealth was measured in seeds planted for harvests you might never see. The farmers nodded. The co-op workers wiped their eyes. The front row, reserved for her parents, her sister, extended family, remained empty except for her. At the burial, Maya knelt alone at the grave's edge. The well-dressed man lingered near a tree, far enough away to offer privacy but close enough that she felt his presence like heat. She placed 2 seed packets on the caskets, heirloom tomatoes, her grandmother's favorite. The valuation came back, she whispered. 5.2 million. You were right, Grandpa. Good soil always wins. She pressed her palm to the earth, feeling it cool and real beneath her fingers, free from the constant hum of technology. I named the scholarship fund after you both. When she looked up, the man was gone. 3 months later, Maya woke at 5:30 to the sharp chirp of actual birds outside her window, not the algorithm-optimized wake-up tones most people used, calibrated to ease them into consciousness while uploading their dream data to health profiles. She'd disabled all that years ago, when she'd moved to the farmhouse her grandparents had left her. The 10 acres they'd written into their will while her parents had been busy fighting over the valuable estate assets, the mansion, the investment portfolios, the collection of status vehicles. No one had wanted the farmland. It didn't scan well on social profiles. It had no resale value in a world where everyone wanted urban penthouses with smart glass walls and augmented reality rooms. Maya had wanted it desperately. She pulled on worn jeans and work boots, ignoring the 47 notifications stacking up in her neural display, all family group chat, all about tonight's annual Chen Family Charity Gala. The event her parents had hosted for 15 years running, which served primarily as a networking opportunity for their real estate empire and a chance to remind everyone of the Chen family's position in the city's social hierarchy. Outside, the experimental crops caught the early light. She'd spent 4 years developing drought-resistant strains that could thrive in the increasingly unpredictable climate. Each plant represented hours of research, careful crossbreeding, endless patience. Her hands moved through the leaves, checking for disease, testing soil moisture the old-fashioned way, by feel, not sensor. Her truck, a 2009 Ford F-150 with a rebuilt engine and 180,000 miles, sat in the driveway wearing its coat of dust like a badge of honor. She'd been offered company vehicles dozens of times. Smart trucks with auto navigation and cargo drones and paint that changed color based on your mood metrics. She'd turned them all down. This truck had belonged to her grandfather. It still smelled like his tobacco and her grandmother's lavender sachets. Across town, Victoria Chen woke at 10 in her penthouse apartment where the walls displayed curated nature scenes, forests and oceans she'd never visited, algorithmically optimized for maximum psychological benefit. She reached for her phone before her eyes were fully open, her fingers moving through practiced motions. Check overnight engagement, monitor follower count, scan for brand partnership opportunities, delete evidence of last night's failure. The tech entrepreneur had broken up with her via text. 3 sentences, no explanation beyond "this isn't working." She methodically scrubbed him from her social presence, untagged photos, deleted couple shots, archived stories. Her assistant AI suggested optimal timing for the removal to minimize follower speculation. "Remind me about tonight," Victoria said to the air. Her apartment system responded in a soothing voice that she'd paid extra to have modeled after a celebrity therapist. Chen Family Charity Gala. 7 p.m. Your parents have requested you bring a date. Someone impressive. They're still capitalizing on the yacht party coverage. You're trending in the lifestyle influencer category. Victoria scrolled through her direct messages, looking for suitable options. Her requirements were simple: wealthy, photogenic, socially connected enough to read well in photos but not so prominent that he'd overshadow her. She paused on a message from Marcus Wright, venture capitalist, early investor in 3 major tech unicorns, perfect aesthetic. His profile showed cultivation, tailored clothes that suggested old money rather than new tech wealth, photos at charity functions and agricultural innovation conferences. Something about the juxtaposition interested her. Most VCs only performed caring about society. This one seemed to actually attend the boring panels. "Loved your investment philosophy post," she typed, her AI suggesting optimal phrasing as she went. "Any chance you're free tonight for a charity gala? Would love to pick your brain about opportunities." In his downtown office, Marcus Wright sat surrounded by transparent screens displaying market data, crop yields, and soil composition reports. Victoria Chen's message materialized in his peripheral vision, flagged by his filter as social opportunity. He read it, allowed himself a small smile, and typed back without AI assistance, "I'd be delighted. Send me the details." The Chen estate sprawled across 5 acres of prime real estate, every inch of it designed to broadcast success. Smart glass walls that could display anything from calming nature scenes to status updates from the city's social monitoring systems. A 7-car garage housing vehicles that drove themselves and never needed cleaning because they were coated in self-maintaining nanosurfaces. An infinity pool that could adjust its temperature to match the optimal comfort level of whoever approached it, reading body heat signatures and adjusting in real time. Linda Chen stood in the entertainment pavilion, arranging seating charts on a holographic display that let her drag and drop names with casual flicks of her manicured fingers. Her nails were embedded with micro-LEDs that shifted through a rainbow of colors, a popular modification among her social circle. "Where should we put Maya?" she asked her husband, zooming in on the digital floor plan. "She's actually coming this year." Robert Chen looked up from his own display where he was reviewing the guest list's combined net worth and social influence scores. "Really? She usually avoids these things. Put her with the young professionals table. Maybe she'll finally network, meet someone suitable." "You mean someone who'll convince her to give up that farm nonsense?" Linda sighed, the sound transmitted perfectly through the room's acoustic optimization system. "I still can't believe she wasted her Harvard MBA on agriculture." Do you know what Victoria's post from the yacht party got? 2.3 million impressions. That's value. That's measurable influence. At least Victoria understands how the world works. Robert expanded a profile on his screen, Marcus Wright, impressive credentials scrolling past. "She's bringing him tonight. Major VC player. Finally, someone in this family is making the right connections." Neither of them mentioned the funeral they'd missed. Not once. Maya stood in her farmhouse bedroom, staring at the navy dress hanging on the back of the door. Elena Rodriguez, her best friend, co-op manager, and the only person who knew all of Maya's secrets, sat on the bed, arms crossed. "You don't have to go," Elena said. The words came without AI assistance, without optimization algorithms. Just human to human, the way they'd always talked. "You don't owe them anything, especially after they skipped your grandparents' funeral for a photo opportunity. Grandma always said family is family, even when they don't deserve it." Maya touched the dress fabric, real cotton, naturally dyed, made by a co-op member who specialized in traditional textiles. "And I haven't seen them since the funeral. Part of me wants them to ask why I was alone that day. Part of me wants them to care, and if they don't ask, then I'll eat their expensive catering, avoid conversation, and leave early like always." Maya pulled the dress on, feeling Elena's eyes on her back. "Did you send Marcus the final valuation report?" Elena's expression shifted into something complicated. 3 days ago. "Maya, about Marcus, I know he's going to push for the Indonesian expansion. I'm not ready to discuss it yet, that's not what Elena stopped herself, seeming to reconsider. "Never mind. Let me do your hair. At least let them see you're not some hermit." Maya sat at her grandmother's old vanity, real wood, no smart surface, no embedded screens. Elena's hands moved through her hair with practiced efficiency while Maya closed her eyes and tried not to think about the evening ahead. "Did you tell them about the valuation?" Elena asked quietly. Maya laughed, a bitter sound. "Why? So they can find a new reason to be disappointed?" "Oh Maya, only 5 million? Victoria got 50,000 new followers last week." The Chan estate transformed as the sun set. Smart lighting systems created an ambience that photographers' algorithms identified as elegant garden party with undertones of sophisticated wealth. A live jazz band, actual humans playing real instruments, a luxury in an age of perfect AI-generated music, set up near the pavilion. Designer floral arrangements that cost more than most people's monthly rent filled every corner, their blooms genetically modified to last weeks and emit subtle fragrances that enhanced mood without triggering allergies. Guests arrived in vehicles that whispered rather than roared, parking themselves with geometric precision. Tech executives whose quarterly earnings could fund small nations. Real estate moguls whose holdings stretched across 3 continents. Social media influencers whose follower counts granted them access to circles that old money had once controlled exclusively. Trust fund socialites whose lives were curated content streams, every moment optimized for maximum engagement. Maya's truck, dusty, ancient, clearly manual drive, pulled into a spot between a Tesla Quantum and a Mercedes Whisper. The valet stared at it like she'd arrived on horseback. Inside, the contrast hit her immediately. Designer gowns with smart fabric that shifted colors based on lighting and mood. Jewelry embedded with microscreens displaying personal brands and achievement badges. Conversations conducted in that peculiar mix of verbal and nonverbal communication that happened when everyone was simultaneously talking and checking their neural displays. Maya wore her grandmother's pearl earrings. Real pearls, no tech, no enhancement. Just smooth, cool weight against her skin. Victoria made her entrance with Marcus on her arm, and Maya felt the room's attention shift like a physical force. Her sister wore a custom gown that probably cost more than Maya's truck, fabric embedded with LEDs that created a subtle shimmer effect, responding to her movements with programmed elegance. Marcus wore a suit that screamed old money despite being cutting edge, Tom Ford, probably, with the kind of tailoring that made bodies look like art. Linda and Robert rushed to greet them, their enthusiasm visible even from across the room. Maya stood 10 feet away, watching her parents air kiss her sister, watching them shake Marcus's hand with genuine warmth, watching them not notice her at all. She'd perfected invisibility. It was her other survival skill. Dinner was announced. Maya found her name card at a table near the kitchen, the young professionals' table, populated by 22-year-old junior employees from her parents' company. Entry-level marketing assistants whose mural displays probably tracked their every eye movement and conversation topic for performance optimization. From her seat, she had a perfect view of the head table where her family held court. Victoria was already live-streaming portions of the evening, her implanted camera capturing flattering angles that her AI assistant would edit in real time. Marcus sat beside her, fitting seamlessly into the world of surface glamour, his posture suggesting comfortable belonging. Linda's voice carried across the room, pitched for the nearby tables to hear. Yes, both our daughters are thriving. Victoria just partnered with Dior, the campaign launches next month. And Maya? The pause was perfectly timed, just long enough to signal something unsaid. Maya chose a different path. Very noble. She works with farmers now. Sustainable agriculture, a woman in a gown that displayed her social influence score on the bodice, currently at 8.2 million, flashing softly, leaned in. Oh, how earthy. Is there money in that? Linda's smile was tight, professional. It's more about passion than profit for Maya. She's always been our idealistic one. We keep hoping she'll leverage that Harvard MBA eventually, but she prefers the simple life. At her distant table, Maya heard every word. The restaurant's acoustic optimization meant sound carried exactly where it was designed to carry. She kept eating, her face expressionless, while a kid across from her asked, "So do you actually touch dirt?" That's so random. Throughout dinner, Marcus kept glancing toward Maya's table. Victoria noticed, misinterpreting his distraction as boredom with her own conversation. That's my sister over there, Victoria said, following his gaze. Maya. She's different. Kind of embarrassing, honestly. She drives a truck older than some of these employees and lives on a farm like it's 1950. Marcus's expression remained carefully neutral. She chose farming? That takes courage. Victoria waved a hand, her LED nails creating light trails. It takes a refusal to grow up. My parents are saints for still including her in family events. She paused, then added with the casual cruelty of someone who's never been challenged, "How was your grandparents' funeral?" I imagine that was difficult. Something shifted in Marcus's posture. You skipped your own grandparents' funeral? Oh, we didn't go. It was the same day as my yacht party launch, terrible timing. Maya went though. She's always been weirdly attached to them. Victoria was already scrolling through something on her neural display, barely paying attention to the conversation. Marcus took a long sip of wine. I see. He excused himself. Maya escaped to the terrace during the cocktail hour between courses, needing air that wasn't filtered and optimized and pumped full of mood-enhancing aromatics. The view overlooked the estate's manicured gardens, beautiful but sterile, maintained by automated systems that never let a leaf fall out of place. She leaned against the railing, feeling the cool metal against her palms. Real. Solid. Present. I was wondering when you'd make a break for it. She turned. Marcus Wright stood a few feet away, and up close he was even more striking than he'd appeared across the room. Dark eyes that seemed to actually see her rather than scanning past her the way most people did. A slight smile that suggested private amusement rather than social performance. I'm sorry, Maya said carefully. Have we met? He extended his hand. Marcus Wright. I'm here with Victoria. And before you say it, yes, I know exactly who you are, Maya. His hand was warm, his grip firm without being aggressive. Something about the way he looked at her made her pulse quicken in a way she didn't entirely trust. Should I know you? She asked, not releasing his hand as quickly as she probably should have. We've met. Briefly. Your grandparents' funeral. I came late, sat in the back. Maya's breath caught. Why would you go to my grandparents' funeral? Did you know them? No. But I knew about the scholarship fund you were launching in their honor. And I knew you'd be alone because your family chose a yacht party instead. The air between them shifted, charged, complicated. Dangerous. Maya pulled her hand back, defensive walls snapping into place. So you're what, a stalker? How do you even know about any of this? Marcus pulled out his phone, an older model, deliberately non-invasive, the kind that suggested someone who valued privacy over convenience. He showed her an email thread. Dozens of messages between Marcus Wright and Elena Rodriguez about contracts, valuations, expansion plans. Maya's face went pale. She grabbed his phone, scrolling through the messages with shaking hands. All signed with his name. All about Green Chain. All about her company. Elena knows you? You've been. She couldn't finish the sentence, because you insisted on keeping investors anonymous. Marcus said quietly. You said you didn't want anyone making decisions based on who funded the project, only on whether the ideas were sound. So I respected that. Elena's known from day one, but she followed your rules, and now you're dating my sister? Maya's voice was sharp. What is this, some kind of game? It's strategy. Marcus stepped closer, and Maya caught his scent, something subtle, not synthesized perfume but actual cedar and something else she couldn't place. Victoria'd met me 2 weeks ago. She wanted arm candy for tonight to make her ex jealous. I said yes because it was the only way to get you in the same room. That's insane, that's persistence. His voice dropped lower, intimate. You've been avoiding Elena's calls about the Indonesian expansion for 6 weeks. You've ignored every request for a face-to-face meeting with investors. You run one of the most successful agricultural startups on the West Coast and you act like it's a hobby, because it's not about money for me. The words came out more forcefully than she intended. It's about creating something real, something that matters, I know. His expression softened into something that looked dangerously like understanding. That's why I invested. He pulled a folder from inside his jacket, actual paper, like her eulogy had been. Maya opened it with trembling hands. The valuation report from their accounting firm, dated 3 days ago. Greenchain Agricultural Solutions, estimated market value, $5.2 million. This can't be right, she whispered. It's conservative, actually. Marcus moved to stand beside her at the railing, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. 3 grocery chains and exclusive contracts. The international hotel deal closes next month. The airline catering agreement is worth another $800,000 annually. You did this. Your vision, your research, your relationships with farming communities. Maya stared at the numbers, feeling something crack open in her chest. 4 years of work. 4 years of being dismissed and patronized and treated like a failure. All of it quantified in neat rows of figures that proved she'd been right all along. Why are you telling me this now? She looked up at him, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. Here, because you deserve to walk back into that dinner and stop apologizing for your existence. He paused, his gaze dropping to her mouth for a fraction of a second before meeting her eyes again. And because I'm tired of pretending I'm only interested in you professionally. The moment hung between them like a physical thing, electric and dangerous and crossing too many lines at once. You're dating my sister, Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. I've been on one actual date with Victoria, coffee last week where she talked about herself for 90 minutes straight. Tonight is our second date if you can call it that. We're not in a relationship, she clearly thinks you are. Marcus leaned against the railing beside her, his shoulder almost touching hers. Then she's operating on wishful thinking and social media fantasy. He was quiet for a moment, then, Maya. I came to your grandparents' funeral because I've been reading your grandmother's letters. Maya's world tilted. What? How? She wrote to me. After Elena told her I was the investor who believed in you, she sent me letters. About soil, about patience, about how the best things grow slowly and need strong roots. His voice was gentle now, careful. She sent me one 2 weeks before she died. Said her biggest fear was that you'd keep yourself small to avoid outshining your family. Said you needed someone who saw your light even when you tried to hide it. Tears welled in Maya's eyes before she could stop them. Her grandmother had known. Had understood. Had reached out to protect her even after death. She never told me she knew about you, Maya whispered. She wanted you to find your own way. But she asked me to look out for you. So here I am, at a party I don't want to be at, dating a woman I'm not interested in, trying to get you to stop running from your own success. This is crazy. You're crazy. Marcus turned to face her fully, and the way he looked at her made something deep in her stomach tighten with heat. Maybe. Or maybe I'm the first person in your life who sees past the humble farm girl act to the empire builder underneath. He paused, his voice dropping to something that felt almost dangerous. And for the record, you look more beautiful covered in soil and wearing work boots than she ever will in designer gowns. Maya's breath caught. The tension between them was thick enough to cut, electric enough to feel on her skin. You can't say things like that while you're here with her, watch me. The slight smile was back, but his eyes were serious. I've been in love with you since you explained the nitrogen cycle to me via email at 2 a.m. while eating tacos from a food truck between site visits. I invested in Green Chain because the business model was solid, but I stayed invested because of you, Marcus. Victoria's voice cut through the moment like a blade. There you are. Marcus, we're about to do the toast. Mom wants photos with you. She noticed Maya then, her expression shifting to dismissive recognition. Oh, hey Maya. Hiding out here? The young professionals table is probably wondering where you went. Marcus didn't take his eyes off Maya. Actually, Maya and I were discussing business. Victoria laughed, the sound artificial and sharp. What business? Maya doesn't do business. She plays farmer. Marcus turned to Victoria then, and his entire demeanor cooled by degrees. That's where you're wrong. Maya is the co-founder and majority shareholder of Green Chain Agricultural Solutions. We're silent business partners. Have been for 4 years. Victoria's smile froze on her face, her micro-expressions betraying confusion before her social training kicked back in. What are you talking about? Those farming cooperatives she plays with? They supply organic produce to every major grocery chain on the West Coast. They've also just secured exclusive contracts with 3 international hotel groups and 2 airline caterers. The valuation came back this week at $5.2 million. The car's interior was dark except for the soft glow of the dashboard and the occasional sweep of headlights from passing vehicles. Maya watched the city lights fade behind them, replaced by the deeper darkness of rural roads where street lamps grew sparse and then disappeared entirely. Her neural display kept lighting up with notifications. She'd stopped counting after 100, but she'd muted everything except the persistent vibration against her palm implant. My phone won't stop buzzing, she said finally. Breaking the silence that had stretched between them since they'd left the estate, Marcus sat in the opposite corner of the back seat, maintaining careful distance. You don't have to look at it, but Maya was already pulling up the messages, her fingers moving through the holographic interface only she could see. 47 messages. Most from Victoria. Some from my parents. A few from cousins I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly very interested in my farming venture. She scrolled through the preview text, watching the same patterns repeat: shock, accusation, sudden investment in her life. Word travels fast. Someone filmed it, Marcus said quietly. The whole thing. It's already on Instagram. #Chin family drama is trending. Maya laughed, a bitter sound that surprised her with its edge. Victoria must be dying. She's the influencer, but I'm the one going viral. She found the video, multiple versions from different angles, all showing the moment on the terrace when everything had unraveled. Her face in each frame looked pale, shocked, then hardening into something fierce. 2.8 million views already. That's more than her yacht party got. Are you okay? Marcus asked, and the genuine concern in his voice made something in her chest tighten. Maya was quiet for a long moment, watching the dark landscape scroll past. Fields that belonged to farmers she knew. Land that held stories no algorithm could quantify. I don't know. Part of me feels lighter. Like I've been holding that in for years. But part of me feels like I just burned every bridge back to my family. Did you want those bridges? They're still my family. The words came out defensive, automatic. Marcus shifted in his seat, and in the dim light she could see him studying her with that same intensity he'd had on the terrace. Family is the people who show up for you, Maya. Not the people who share your DNA but can't be bothered to attend your grandparents' funeral. The truth of it stung. Maya closed the messages, letting the holographic display fade. Outside, she recognized the turn onto her road, gravel crunching under the tires. The sound real and unenhanced. Why did you really come tonight? And don't say it was just to see me. You could have scheduled a meeting. Shown up at the farm. You didn't have to pretend to date Victoria, Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that seemed unconscious, unpolished by social training. Honestly? I was angry. I'd been trying to reach you for weeks about the Indonesian expansion, and you kept dodging Elena's calls. Then I saw Victoria's post about the gala, all your family members tagged, including you. And I thought if I showed up as her date, I'd finally get you cornered. Get you to stop hiding from your own success, so it was a strategy. It was a terrible strategy that spiraled out of control the second I saw you sitting alone at that kid's table while your parents fawned over your sister. He turned to look at her fully, and even in the darkness she could feel the weight of his attention. I watched you make yourself invisible, Maya. You're brilliant and successful, and you were shrinking yourself down to nothing because that's what they've trained you to do. And I couldn't, he stopped himself, jaw tightening. I couldn't watch it anymore. The car pulled up to her farmhouse, the headlights illuminating the weathered porch and the garden beds that would be bursting with growth come spring. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she gathered her things. Come inside. I need coffee or something stronger, and you need to explain exactly what you meant by "in love with me" in front of 50 people. Marcus paid the driver and followed her up the porch steps. Maya's security system was minimal, a simple biometric lock that read her palm print without fanfare. No AI assistant greeting her, no smart home systems adjusting lighting and temperature based on her mood metrics. Just a light switch she flipped manually and a house that smelled like wood and herbs and old books. This is where you live, Marcus said, and it wasn't a question. He moved through the space like someone cataloging details, the grandmother's quilts on the furniture, the bookshelves packed with actual paper volumes on agriculture and sustainability, the kitchen table covered in soil samples and research notes written by hand. Were you expecting something else? Maya kicked off her shoes and immediately felt more grounded. The wooden floor was cool under her feet, real and solid. No. It's perfect. It's you. Marcus loosened his tie, the gesture somehow making him look less polished and more human. Can I help with the coffee? Maya moved to the kitchen, pulling out her grandmother's old percolator, the kind that required actual attention, not just voice commands. You can explain what the hell happened tonight. Starting with my grandmother's letters. Marcus leaned against the counter, maintaining that careful distance again. She first wrote to me about 6 months after I invested. Elena had mentioned me during a family dinner, just as the investor who believed in the project, and your grandmother asked for my contact information. The first letter was about tomatoes. Maya measured coffee grounds, the familiar ritual calming her shaking hands, heirloom varieties. She wanted to know if I thought there was market potential for heritage seeds in a world of genetically optimized crops. Marcus's voice softened. We corresponded for almost 3 years. She'd write these long letters about patience and growth cycles and how the best things can't be rushed. And slowly, she'd weave in stories about you. About how you'd always been different from the rest of the family. How you cared about substance over flash. The coffee began to percolate, filling the kitchen with its rich scent. Maya kept her back to him, not trusting herself to look at him while he talked about her grandmother. When did she tell you she was sick? She didn't. Not directly. But the letters started coming more frequently toward the end. More urgent. The last one arrived 2 weeks before she died. Marcus was quiet for a moment. She said her biggest fear was that you'd keep yourself small to avoid outshining your family. That you'd built something extraordinary but you were terrified to claim it because claiming it would mean admitting they'd been wrong about you. Maya's throat tightened. She was right, I know. That's why I came to the funeral. I thought if I could just talk to you, face to face, I could convince you to stop hiding. Marcus moved closer, and Maya could feel him behind her even though he didn't touch her. But you left before I could introduce myself. And then you went radio silent on the Indonesian deal, and I realized you weren't just hiding from your family. You were hiding from success itself. Maya poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs, one her grandfather's, one her grandmother's. She turned to hand Marcus his cup and found him closer than she'd expected, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "So you decided to date my sister and stage a public revelation at a family gala? When you put it like that, it sounds insane." It was insane. But Maya couldn't quite keep the smile off her face. She moved past him to the living room, settling into her grandmother's reading chair. Marcus took the couch, maintaining that careful distance that felt both respectful and frustrating. "Tell me something," Maya said, curling her legs under her. "That whole speech about being in love with me. Was that part of the strategy too?" Marcus looked at her over the rim of his coffee mug, his expression unreadable. "No. That was me losing control of the situation entirely." He set the mug down carefully on a coaster, noticing the coaster. Using it without being asked, small courtesies that suggested real attention to his surroundings. "I meant every word I said on that terrace, Maya. I'd been in love with you for months. Maybe longer." The confession hung in the air between them, too big to ignore and too complicated to accept easily. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. "You don't know me. You know my business reports and my grandmother's stories and whatever professional persona I maintain in investor calls. I know you wake up at 5:30 and check your crops before you check your messages. I know you invested your first profits back into farming equipment for co-op members who couldn't afford their own. I know you turned down 3 acquisition offers because the companies wanted to replace your farmers with automation." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I know you keep a photo of your grandparents on your desk and you talk to it sometimes when you're working through a problem. I know you hate the city but you go anyway because that's where the contracts get signed. I know you're terrified of success because success means becoming like your parents, and you'd rather fail than turn into them." Maya's breath caught. "Elena told you all that, some of it. The rest I figured out by paying attention." His voice was quiet, intense. "You want to know what made me fall in love with you? It was an email you sent at 2 in the morning about nitrogen-fixing bacteria. You were so excited about this soil sample that you wrote 4 paragraphs before you even got to the business implications. And at the end you said, 'Sorry for rambling. I just really love what I do.' That's when I knew what, that you were real. In a world where everything is performance and optimization and personal branding, you were just genuinely excited about dirt." Marcus smiled, self-deprecating. "I'd spent the previous week in meetings with founders who couldn't talk about their companies without checking their engagement metrics. And then there was you, writing emails about bacteria at 2 a.m. because you were too excited to sleep." Maya's neural display lit up with an incoming call. "Victoria." The 14th attempt. She dismissed it without looking. "This is insane. This whole situation is insane." "You keep saying that, because it is." Maya stood, needing to move, to pace. The nervous energy that had been building all night needed somewhere to go. "You invested in my company, went to my grandparents' funeral, read my grandmother's letters, fake-dated my sister, and just publicly declared your feelings in front of 50 people including my entire family. And now you're in my house at midnight telling me you love me because of an email about bacteria." Marcus stood too, tracking her movement. "When you list it like that, it does sound obsessive, a bit." Maya stopped pacing, turning to face him. They were close again, too close, the air between them charged with something she couldn't quite name. "What are you expecting here, Marcus? That I'll just fall into your arms because you made a scene at my parents' gala? No." He didn't move closer, but he didn't back away either. "I'm not expecting anything. I just needed you to know that someone sees you. Really sees you. Not the disappointing daughter, not the weird sister. I see Maya Chen who's changing the agricultural industry while driving a beat-up truck and wearing her grandmother's pearls. And I'm completely in love with that woman." The vulnerability in his voice did something to her, cracked something open that she'd been keeping carefully locked away. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because," Maya's voice caught. "Because I've spent my entire life being invisible. Being the one who doesn't count, who doesn't matter. And now you're standing in my grandmother's house telling me you see me and I don't know what to do with that." Marcus took a careful step closer. You don't have to do anything with it. I'm not asking you to make decisions right now. I'm just telling you the truth. The truth is complicated. The truth is simple. Everything around it is complicated. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was light, barely there, but it sent electricity through her entire body. I love you. That's the simple part. What we do about it, that's where it gets complicated. Maya's breath came shallow. She could feel her pulse in her throat, in her fingertips, everywhere he might touch her. This is a terrible idea. Probably, you just fake dated my sister. Technically, I escorted her to one event. I don't think that constitutes dating. She's going to hate me even more than she already does. She's going to hate that you succeeded where she expected you to fail. This just makes it more visible. Marcus's hand dropped back to his side, but he didn't step away. Maya, I'm not asking you to choose anything tonight. I'm not asking for anything except honesty. So let me ask you this, if I weren't your investor, if I hadn't just blown up your family dinner, if none of the complicated parts existed, would you want this? Would you want me? The question hung between them, dangerous and honest. Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and saw past the expensive suit and the venture capitalist polish to something genuine underneath. Someone who'd driven 3 hours to attend a stranger's funeral. Someone who'd read her grandmother's letters about patience and growth. Someone who got excited about her emails about soil bacteria. Yes, she whispered. But that's not the world we live in, no. It's not. Marcus's smile was sad, understanding. So what do we do? Maya's neural display lit up again, Elena this time, the message marked urgent. She pulled it up, scanning quickly. Elena wants to know if you're still alive and if I need her to call the police or a lawyer or both. Probably should let her know you're okay. Maya sent a quick message, I'm fine. He's here. We're talking. I'll call you tomorrow. Then she looked back at Marcus, feeling the weight of everything that had happened tonight pressing down on her shoulders. You should stay. It's late, and I don't trust you to drive yourself back to the city in this state. What state is that? The state of having just imploded a social event and declared your love in front of witnesses. Maya moved toward the hallway, gesturing for him to follow. Guest room is upstairs. Bathroom is across the hall. I don't have any smart home features, so you'll have to manually adjust the temperature if you get cold, Maya. Marcus caught her hand as she passed him, his fingers wrapping around hers with gentle firmness. Thank you. For not throwing me out. She looked down at their joined hands, at the way his thumb traced small circles on her palm. The touch was intimate without being presumptuous. Grounding without being possessive. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we have to figure out what happens next. Tomorrow, he agreed, but he didn't let go of her hand immediately. They stood there in her grandmother's living room, connected by touch and confession and the wreckage of the evening, until Maya finally pulled away. Good night, Marcus, good night. Maya climbed the stairs to her bedroom, feeling his presence in the house like a physical thing. She closed her door and leaned against it, her heart racing. Through the floor, she could hear him moving around in the guest room, water running in the bathroom, floorboards creaking, sounds of another human being in her space for the first time in months. Her neural display showed 247 new notifications. She disabled it completely, needing silence, but sleep didn't come. Maya lay in her grandmother's quilts, staring at the ceiling and replaying the evening in fractured images. Marcus's face when he told her he loved her. Her mother's expression when the truth came out. Victoria's rage and humiliation. The weight of the valuation report in her hands, proof that she'd been right all along. Somewhere around 3 a.m., she heard footsteps in the hallway. A soft knock on her door. Maya? Are you awake? She should have pretended to sleep. Should have maintained boundaries, kept distance, protected herself. Instead she said, come in. Marcus opened the door, backlit by the hallway light. He'd removed his jacket and tie, rolled up his shirt sleeves. Somehow that made him more dangerous, more real. I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what you said, about burning bridges. And I think maybe some bridges need to burn. He stayed in the doorway, not presuming entry into her space. Your family has been treating you like a failure for 4 years while you built something extraordinary. That's not a bridge. That's a trap. Maya sat up, pulling her grandmother's quilt around her shoulders. So what am I supposed to do? Cut them off completely? No. You're supposed to stop setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. You're supposed to stop apologizing for being successful. You're supposed to claim what you've earned. That sounds nice in theory, it's terrifying in practice. I know. He was quiet for a moment. When I first started investing, I came from nothing. Scholarship kid, first in my family to go to college. My parents wanted me to get a stable job, something safe. They thought venture capital was gambling. When my first investment paid off big, they were angry that I'd risked so much on something uncertain. What did you do? I kept investing. Eventually they saw the results and came around. But that period of disappointment? That fear that they'd never understand? I remember it. Marcus's expression was shadowed, vulnerable. The difference is, my parents were afraid for me. Your parents are just afraid you'll make them look bad. The observation landed like a physical blow. Maya had never articulated it quite that way, but he was right. Her parents weren't worried about her well-being, they were worried about what her choices said about their parenting, their status, their carefully curated image. That's why you told everyone tonight, Maya said slowly, understanding dawning. You weren't just revealing my success. You were making it impossible for them to keep diminishing me. I was making it public record. Hard to dismiss a $5 million valuation when it's trending on social media. Marcus smiled slightly. Was it manipulative? Yes. Was it necessary? Also yes. Maya patted the bed beside her before she could overthink it. Come here, he hesitated. Maya, just sit. I'm too tired to make good decisions, and I need someone to talk to who isn't Elena or my neural display assistant. Marcus crossed the room carefully, settling on the edge of the bed with deliberate distance between them. The mattress dipped under his weight, and Maya caught his scent again, cedar and something else, maybe just him. They sat in the darkness, their shoulders almost touching but not quite, the space between them alive with possibility. What happens tomorrow? Maya asked quietly. Tomorrow, your phone is going to explode with people suddenly interested in Green Chain. Investors wanting in, media wanting interviews, your family wanting damage control. Marcus's voice was steady, professional, but she could hear the underlying current of something else. You're going to have to decide how you want to handle it, and what do you want me to do? What I want doesn't matter. This is your company, your success, your life, but you have an opinion. Marcus turned to look at her, and in the dim light from the window she could see his expression, serious, careful, layered with things unsaid. I want you to own it. All of it. The success, the vindication, the proof that you were right and they were wrong. I want you to stop hiding, and us? The question slipped out before Maya could stop it. What happens with us, that depends on you. Marcus's hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining. The touch sent heat up her arm, pulling in her chest. I meant what I said tonight. All of it. But I'm not going to pressure you into anything. We can keep this professional if that's what you need, and if that's not what I need. The air between them shifted, charged with new tension. Marcus's thumb traced circles on her palm again, that same gentle, grounding touch from earlier. Then we figure it out. Carefully. Honestly. Without rushing, Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Every rational part of her brain was screaming warnings, too complicated, too fast, too much risk. But there was another part, quieter but insistent, that recognized something true in this moment. Something real in a world of performance and optimization. She leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling him tense briefly before relaxing into the contact. They sat like that in the darkness, hands joined, her head on his shoulder, breathing in sync. It wasn't a kiss, wasn't a declaration, just a moment of connection that felt more intimate than anything Maya had experienced in years. "Stay," she whispered. "Just like this. Until morning, okay?" Marcus's voice was rough, careful. "But Maya, I know. Tomorrow everything gets complicated. Tonight, just stay." He shifted slightly, making them both more comfortable, and they lay back against the pillows with careful distance still maintained. Connected by their joined hands but not quite embracing, present but not presuming. Maya felt her breathing slow, felt the adrenaline of the evening finally start to fade. "Marcus, yeah, thank you for seeing me." His hand tightened around hers in the darkness. "Always." Maya drifted toward sleep, aware of his presence beside her like a promise and a question mark combined. Tomorrow there would be consequences and decisions and the full weight of what had happened tonight. But for now, in her grandmother's house, holding hands with a man who'd upended her entire world, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt like herself. Fully, completely, unapologetically herself, and for the first time in her life, that felt like enough. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the smell of coffee brewing downstairs. For a disoriented moment, she thought she'd dreamed the entire previous night, the gala, the confrontation. Marcus in her house. Then she registered the warmth beside her, the weight of a hand still loosely holding hers, and reality crashed back in. Marcus was asleep, his face relaxed in a way it hadn't been at the gala. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and he looked more human than the polished venture capitalist who'd walked into her parents' estate. Maya carefully extracted her hand and slipped out of bed, padding downstairs in bare feet. Elena sat at the kitchen table, 2 coffee mugs in front of her, scrolling through something on a tablet. She looked up when Maya entered, her expression carefully neutral. "So," Elena said. That happened. Maya poured herself coffee from the pot Elena had already made. Her best friend knew her routines. Knew she'd need caffeine before conversation. "How bad is it?" "Depends on your definition of bad." Elena turned the tablet around. The screen showed a compilation of social media posts, all timestamped from the previous night. #Chin Family Drama had accumulated over 8 million engagements. There were think pieces, commentary videos, memes. Someone had already created a side-by-side comparison of Victoria's influencer metrics versus Greenchain's valuation, titled "Real Success versus Fake Success." "Oh God," Maya whispered, "it gets better." Elena swiped to another screen. 3 major agricultural publications want interviews. 2 venture capital podcasts. The Food Innovation Summit wants you as a keynote speaker. And, she paused dramatically. Melissa Zhang's office called. Maya nearly dropped her mug. Melissa Zhang was one of the most influential tech investors in the country, known for funding companies that actually changed things rather than just made money. What did she want? A meeting. "Tomorrow if possible." She said, and I quote, "Anyone who builds a $5 million company while their family thinks they're a failure is someone I need to know. Tomorrow?" Maya's mind spun. "I can't, I need time to process. You need to capitalize on momentum." Elena's voice was firm, the tone she used when Maya tried to hide from opportunity. "This is what we've been working toward for 4 years. You can process later. Right now, you need to own this." Footsteps on the stairs announced Marcus's arrival. He'd attempted to straighten his clothes, but he still looked like someone who'd slept in his suit. His eyes found Maya immediately, a question in them. "Are we okay?" Maya gave him a small nod, feeling heat rise in her cheeks at the memory of falling asleep holding his hand. Elena brought the damage report. "I saw some of it on my phone." Marcus accepted the coffee mug Elena pushed toward him without asking. The easy way he fit into the kitchen dynamic should have felt strange, but somehow it didn't. "Your family's publicist has been working overtime. They released a statement at 6 a.m. He pulled up the statement on his phone, projecting it onto the kitchen wall, another piece of tech Maya had disabled but Marcus had reactivated with a gesture. The Chin family letterhead appeared, followed by carefully crafted corporate language. "The Chin family is proud of all our children's achievements," Maya read aloud, her voice dripping sarcasm. We have always supported Maya's agricultural endeavors and are thrilled to see Green Chain Agricultural Solutions receiving the recognition it deserves. Family is about celebrating each other's successes, and we look forward to continuing our tradition of mutual support. They didn't even mention skipping the funeral, Elena said flatly. Of course not. That would require acknowledging they did something wrong. Maya closed the projection with a sharp gesture. What else? Marcus and Elena exchanged a look that suggested they'd already been communicating. Victoria posted an apology video, Marcus said carefully. Sort of, show me. The video appeared on the wall, Victoria in her penthouse, wearing carefully calculated authentic clothing that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. No makeup that was obviously no makeup, achieved through an hour of expert application. The lighting was perfect, the framing professional. I want to address last night's events, Victoria said to the camera, her voice trembling slightly. I was shocked to learn about my sister's success. Not because I don't believe in her, I've always believed in Maya, but because we've grown apart over the years. I realize now that I've been so focused on my own career that I failed to stay connected to what matters most, family. I'm proud of my sister and I hope we can rebuild our relationship. Success comes in many forms, and I'm learning that influence isn't just about followers, it's about impact. The video ended. Maya stared at the blank wall, processing. She didn't apologize for skipping the funeral, no one is, Elena confirmed. They're reframing the entire narrative. Making it about family reconciliation and different definitions of success. Very on brand, very calculated, and it's working, Marcus added, scrolling through his phone. Her followers are eating it up. She's gained 200,000 new followers overnight. People love a redemption arc. Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Of course. Of course Victoria would find a way to monetize even this. Turn Maya's moment of vindication into content, into engagement, into more followers. The anger that rose in her throat tasted like old bitterness, familiar and corrosive. Let her have it, Maya said, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. Let them all have their narratives and their damage control and their performative reconciliation. I'm done playing their games. Elena smiled, sharp and approving. Good. Because we have real work to do. The Indonesian expansion is time-sensitive, and if we're going to capitalize on this attention, we need to move fast. Marcus was watching Maya with that intense focus again, the look that made her feel seen and exposed simultaneously. What do you want, Maya? Not what's strategic, not what's smart, what do you actually want? The question stopped her. What did she want? For years, she'd wanted her family's approval, their recognition, proof that she wasn't the failure they thought she was. Last night had given her that, publicly, undeniably, and it felt hollow. The validation she'd been chasing wasn't satisfying because it came too late. Driven by embarrassment rather than genuine pride, I want to build something that lasts, Maya said slowly, the words forming as she spoke them. I want to prove that success doesn't have to be about personal branding and social metrics and constant performance. I want to show that you can create real value, real change, without turning yourself into a commodity. Then that's what we do, Marcus said simply. Elena, set up the meeting with Melissa Zhang. Let's also reach out to the agricultural publications, controlled narrative, Maya's terms. And we need to talk about the Indonesian deal. The window is closing, Elena was already typing notes. What about the family? They're going to push for reconciliation. Probably want Maya at some kind of press event, no. Maya's voice was firm. I'm not doing press events with them. I'm not helping them rehabilitate their image. If they want a relationship with me, it happens privately, without cameras, without social media. And it starts with an actual apology. They're not going to like that, Elena warned. I don't care. Maya met Marcus's eyes across the kitchen table. I'm done making myself smaller to fit their comfort zone. Something shifted in his expression, pride, heat, approval. Good, the moment stretched between them, loaded with everything unsaid from the night before. Elena cleared her throat deliberately. Should I leave you two alone? Or are we actually going to have a business meeting? Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. Business meeting. Definitely business meeting, right, Elena said, not bothering to hide her smirk. Well, for the business record, your silent partner spent the night. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page about what that means for company dynamics. It doesn't mean anything for company dynamics, Marcus said, but his eyes were still on Maya. I'm still an investor. Maya's still the founder and majority shareholder. Last night was personal, not professional, and this morning? Elena pressed. Because from where I'm sitting, personal and professional are getting pretty tangled. Maya appreciated Elena's directness even as it made her squirm. This morning, we focus on work. Everything else, she gestured vaguely. We figure out later, Marcus agreed, but the way he said it sounded like a promise. They spent the next 3 hours strategizing. Elena laid out the Indonesian expansion timeline, contracts that needed signing, partnerships that required face-to-face negotiation, a market that was primed for exactly what Greenchain offered. Marcus provided financial projections and investor contacts, his venture capital expertise complementing Maya's agricultural knowledge. Maya found herself relaxing into the familiar rhythm of problem solving, the satisfaction of turning abstract ideas into concrete plans. This was what she loved, the work itself, the challenge of building something meaningful. Not the attention, not the validation, just the pure satisfaction of doing something well. Her neural display kept lighting up with notifications, but she'd learned to filter everything except priority contacts. So when her mother's face appeared with an incoming call marked urgent, Maya felt her stomach drop. I should take this, she said, standing up from the table. Marcus and Elena exchanged glances. Want us to stay? Elena asked. No. This is something I need to do alone. Maya stepped out onto the porch, accepting the call. Her mother's face materialized in holographic projection, perfectly made up despite the early hour. Maya. Finally. I've been trying to reach you all morning, I've been busy. What do you want, Mom? Linda's expression flickered, surprise at the directness. Quick recalculation. I want to talk about last night. About what happened. You mean about you finding out I'm successful despite your complete lack of support? That's not fair. We've always supported you. You skipped Grandma and Grandpa's funeral for Victoria's Instagram party. Maya's voice was steady, cold. You seated me at the kids' table at your gala. You've spent 4 years telling anyone who'd listen that I wasted my potential. Don't talk to me about support. Linda's composure cracked slightly. We made mistakes. I acknowledge that. But Maya, we're still your family. Don't you think we deserve a chance to make this right? What does making it right look like to you? A press conference where we all smile for cameras? A social media post about family unity? Another event where you can use my success to make yourselves look good? That's not. Linda stopped herself, seeming to recognize the futility of denial. What do you want from us? The question was so similar to Marcus's earlier one, but coming from her mother it felt different. Transactional rather than genuine, strategy rather than care. I want you to have cared 4 years ago, Maya said quietly. I want you to have come to the funeral. I want you to have asked about my work, believed in my vision, supported me when I had nothing to show for it except dirt under my fingernails and a dream. But I can't have those things. They're in the past, so what can we do now? Maya thought about her grandparents, about the patient way they'd taught her that the best things grow slowly. About how her grandmother had reached out to Marcus, trying to protect her even after death. About the difference between people who showed up and people who performed showing up. You can respect my boundaries, Maya said finally. No press events, no social media reconciliation, no using my success for your image rehabilitation. If you want a relationship with me, it happens privately, honestly, without performance. And it starts with you actually acknowledging what you did wrong. Not in a corporate statement, to me, directly, without an audience. Linda was silent for a long moment. And if we do that? If we apologize, respect your boundaries, will you forgive us? I don't know. Maya said honestly. Maybe. Eventually. But forgiveness isn't something you can schedule or optimize or achieve through the right PR strategy. It's something that happens slowly, if it happens at all. I see. Linda's voice was tight. Well, I suppose we'll have to think about that. You do that. Maya prepared to end the call. And Mom? The scholarship fund I created in Grandma and Grandpa's name? That's real. It's happening with or without your involvement. But if you want to contribute, financially, not just for appearances, Elena can send you the information. She ended the call before her mother could respond, her hands shaking slightly. Through the kitchen window, she could see Marcus and Elena pretending not to watch her. The protective concern on both their faces made something in her chest tighten. When she returned inside, neither of them asked how it went. Elena just pushed a fresh mug of coffee toward her, and Marcus made space for her at the table, close enough that their arms almost touched. Ready to keep working? Elena asked. Yes. Maya pulled up the Indonesian contract files, focusing on the familiar comfort of business problems with clear solutions. Let's talk about supply chain logistics. They worked through lunch, ordering food from a local co-op that Maya had helped establish 3 years ago. The owner delivered it personally, refusing payment and thanking Maya effusively for what she'd done for the community. It was a small moment, but Marcus watched it with that intense attention, filing away details. By mid-afternoon, they had a solid plan for the Indonesian expansion, timeline for the Melissa Zhang meeting, and media strategy that would put Maya in control of her narrative rather than reacting to her family's. Elena left around 3, citing other clients, but really, Maya suspected, giving them space. The farmhouse felt